All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're wrapping up week number 1, looking into week number 2. A lot of great football there, a lot of great games. It's Labor Day weekend, but I'm joined by my co-host, the man who discovered that Chihuahua was not pronounced Chichihua, my co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Apps. What an amazing opening weekend from Thursday all the way through. A lot of fun football. It's just great to have it back. Watching noon to midnight on Saturday. Uh, it brings a smile to your face and a warm to your heart. I know obviously it's we got a lot more weeks to go, but week one off to a heck of a start.
All right, Fresh. Well, let's recap real quick here. We've switched up our format for this upcoming season. Who are your top players this weekend here? Who's your offensive player of the week and defensive player of the week?
Well, it might be a little recency bias, but Keon Coleman just went off for Florida State. Coming in from Michigan State, you never know. Hey, he had to go through the transfer portal. How's he really going to click? And there was no skipping beat. Obviously, him and Jordan Travis were locked in. You go 9 catches, 122, and 3 touchdowns. He showed off not just for Florida State, but for the nation that this dude's going to be obviously to reckon with. And then Johnny Wilson on the other side, it's going to probably make him even more better. So Keon Coleman is my player of the week for offense.
My offensive player of the week, I go all the way out to Washington. Michael Penix Jr., 450 yards, 5 touchdowns, just absolutely destroyed a fairly decent and probably underrated Boise State defense, who's averaging over 11 yards per pass. That's a huge thing for me. So it was between him and Sanders most of the weekend and went neck and neck. But I'll come back to Mr. Sanders here in a little bit. But my offensive player of the week is Michael Penix Jr. for the Washington Huskies. Absolutely amazing performance by him.
Yeah, that 4 touchdowns second quarter is crazy. My defensive player of the week, Clayton Isabel from Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers. Probably wondering what the heck did that guy do? Well, if you were watching late out there on the West Coast, it's the last installment of Pac-12 After Dark. I think we're going through 9 total tackles and 3 interceptions versus UCLA. The kid put on for the Chanticleers, made a name for himself, and it was really impressive the way he was out there playing some defense on Saturday night.
Yeah, Fresh and I did not compare notes, and we both kind of gravitated to the same player. So in order to have no redundancy here, my player of the week on the defensive side of the ball is out of the same game, is Latu for the UCLA. The defensive lineman had 3 sacks in that game. Definitely was a wrecking ball for that Chanticleer offensive line. Yeah, it was more of a defensive, forcing sacks, forcing turnovers type of game for UCLA versus Coastal Carolina. So he wins my Defensive Player of the Week award with his 3 sacks and getting UCLA that big time W.
Yeah, it was impressive. It's funny where we don't really expect defense from those 2 schools, and they had 2 great players who showed up. My dud of the week, South Carolina's offensive line. Good grief. You guys were like turnstiles. 9 sacks, countless pressures, Rattler's running for his life. If that's what you guys are going to produce week in and week out, good luck going to Rocky Top. Good luck playing the Dogs in Athens. It could get really ugly for Rattler and that entire South Carolina offense if you guys keep playing at that low level of effort.
Absolutely. Fresh, I went in a couple of different places for dud of the week, but I eventually just settled on the Florida Gators. And I felt like they had to be the dud of the week. Billy Napier, I kind of put this one on you. The eyes of the nation were watching you. It was Thursday night. It was the only game in town. Everyone was watching Florida travel to Utah. And you looked undisciplined. You looked poorly coached at that time. Florida's got a lot of things that they need to fix. So Florida was my dud of the week. And I kind of put that on the shoulders of Billy Napier.
Oh, it has to go on Billy Napier. That you have 40,000 members of your coaching staff and support staff, and you can't figure out you have 2 number 3s in the field. That's pretty
Right.
bad.
Yeah, and I love the nickname that Fresh gave him is Bubble Screen Billy. So we'll be referring to Coach Napier as Bubble Screen Billy for the rest of the season. All right, Fresh. What was the best game of the week for you? There were 2 really good ones that came to my
There were
mind.
2 really good ones. The excitement factor of that Colorado TCU game, where no one really knew what to expect from Colorado. no one really kind of knew what to expect from TCU, and they were just trading blows back and forth. It didn't have the hype from a two nationally ranked team perspective, but the way they kept going back and forth, the big time plays. I'm going to take that over LSU Florida State just because that was something that drew everyone's attention. I know I was at a cigar bar watching the game, and people who had never watched football weren't really paying attention, started turning around like, man, who's that kid at quarterback? What was that, Deion Sanders on the sideline? And it just sort of gravitated, brought people around, and they kept going back and forth, and then holding on to get the win. That really just captivated and I think kicked off a great weekend.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to a game that not many people watch. If you have not seen the ending of this game, fire up the YouTube, check out the recap of it. Texas Tech losing at Wyoming. This game wound up going into double overtime. Wyoming converting a 2-point conversion at the end of double overtime. Back and forth game. Go back and listen to some of our stuff we said about the Mountain West earlier this year. Fresh and I are both very high on Wyoming, and we were high on Texas Tech. So this was a sneaky good game this past weekend, and the Cowboys pulled it off out there in the great state of Wyoming.
Mountain West got two big upsets. You got Fresno State taking down Purdue as well. Like, hey, that might be a good place for Oregon State and Washington State to go to if there's teams beating up on Big Ten and Big 12 schools.
Fresh, what were your thoughts on the Pac-12 going 13-0 in the opening weekend? Did you see this stat?
Hey, it's amazing, and you know what? Win the games you're supposed to play, on your schedule, take care of business, and they all did, and they did in impressive fashion. Oregon State does it on national television for San Jose State. Everyone else sort of, plays throughout their process, but it's impressive. It's kind of a nice little farewell to the commissioner, like, hey, we're a product. Peace out.
Right. All right, Fresh, if you had a Heisman vote right now, who is, after week one, who's your Heisman front runner?
We saw a lot of great quarterback play.
We did.
You know what? I'm going to give it to Jordan Travis because he did what the lights were the brightest. Everyone was paying attention to that game on Sunday night, and he showed up, put up like 5 touchdowns. I'm going to go with Jordan Travis.
He was one of my 3 that I was between. I'm going to go with Sanders over there out in Colorado. He was absolutely phenomenal. Again, just like when the lights were the brightest, everyone in the country was wanting to see what Colorado would be like, and he definitely didn't disappoint with the 5 touchdowns, over 500 yards of offense in that game. Absolutely incredible, completing over 80% of his passes. That's what you need when you have a Heisman campaign. You need those big moments, especially early on in the season, because everyone's going to start talking about you. Everyone's going to start talking about what you did in week one and going forward. So awesome week from him going into Heisman. All right, Fresh, let's stop talking about week one. And before we get to our preview, week two, this is our top 15. We're not doing top 25, but the top 15 teams going into week two right now. Fresh, I'll let you go first here. What do you got as your top 15 teams going into week two?
Well, number one, Georgia Bulldogs remain. My number 2 spot, Florida State made a big jump for me. Really impressive. I have them number 2 in the country right now. Michigan's number 3, Alabama number 4, Ohio State number 5, USC number 6, Penn State number 7, Utah number 8, Washington number 9, Oregon 10, Tennessee 11, Texas 12, Kansas State at 13, Oregon State at 14, and Notre Dame at 15.
Wow. Why did you jump Florida State up so high, up to number 2?
I mean, I had them at number 8 going in after my preseason, and the way they came in there and just thoroughly dominated the second half, they had a little clunky early on. I think everybody was kind of getting jitters out in that first half. They were down 3, and they came in the second half and were focused, dominated the line of scrimmage the entire time, made plays on offense, made plays on defense, and they looked like a legit playoff contender from the second that second half kicked off, and they just dominated straight through. And you're beating a team at LSU who played an SEC title game last year, beat Alabama last year, dominated Purdue in that bowl game. I think shut them out 50-something to nothing, and they came out with a lot of hype. And you met and surpassed expectations in this football game, and that's kind of where everybody else, they took care of business. It's not a slant against anyone else in the country because they just played their schedule. But when you have that matchup, a highly focused on, only game in town, and you come out and dominate like that, that's impressive.
Absolutely. All right, Fresh, my top 15 going into this weekend, week number 2, I got the Georgia Bulldogs at number 1. Michigan is still the number 2 team in the country. Michigan was up 30-0. That's a late field goal by ECU just to end the shutout. I got Alabama at 3. Florida State jumped into the top 5 with me to number 4. Ohio State was number 5 for me. The thing that I found interesting is 4 out of my top 5, it wasn't about the offense. It was actually about their defensive showing this past weekend. I know a lot of us get stuck in the offensive, the glitz, the glamour, the high-powered octane. All 4 out of those top 5 teams, and even Florida State in the second half, kind of get that credit as well. These teams all had impressive defensive showings there. I got USC at number 6, Penn State at 7, Washington at 8, Tennessee at 9, Texas moves to number 10 for me, Oregon is at 11. I only have Utah at number 12. I want to see them when they're at full health and fully ready to go. Notre Dame is sitting there at 13. The Oregon State Beavers, if you guys didn't get a chance to see that last night, that was a great one. They're at 14, and I got K-State sitting at number 15 for me. That's the huge thing going into the top 15. I know you got a couple of people outside looking in. We talked about a couple of teams fresh. Who is right outside of that top 15 for you?
Well, I had 4 new teams actually jump into the top 25 compared to my preseason, and that was Colorado, who I have at 19, Oklahoma at 22, A&M at 23, and Tulane at 25. On the outside looking in, Iowa and Kentucky are right there, and I'm still going to be. It's going to be tough for me to Iowa unless I can see consistent offense. They didn't even meet the 25 that Kirk Ferentz son's supposed to get on his contract. They hit 24. Kentucky, I still want to see you build off that. Those guys are on the outside looking in. There's some talent there. They both have great defenses, but if anyone slips up and they keep moving up, they have the chance to really jump in and make an impact.
Absolutely. One of the teams I got on the outside looking in as well is Ole Miss. I thought they had an impressive showing. I need to see a little bit more out of them, consistently doing it, maybe up against a little bit better of talent. I also have Colorado. Yes, you get up, you spent all year long, all off season long preparing for week 1. What do you do in the second week of the year? What do you do when you're facing Nebraska and your home opener? Are you able to game plan? Are you able to do the same things that we saw you do versus TCU? Or is that a one-hit wonder type of thing? So Colorado, I'm really excited about them. It looks like we're going to be talking a lot of Colorado football this year. Maybe, maybe not. But we got to see it week 2 before I really am ready to put them into my top 15. K-State, again, made it into my top 15. And the one team, I'll agree with you there, Fresh, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I need to see if they're consistently putting up 24 to 28 points a game, they're going to make a quick jump because that defense is still pretty darn good over there as well. But I'm with you. I'm going to hold my breath and wait out a little bit more and see if Cade McNamara can continue to kind of increase the Iowa offense after this past week.
Yep. I mean, I think that's what's going to hold them back, and that's why there's pressure on Ferentz's son to figure it out and get it going.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to be dropping our week 2 preview a little bit later this week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to the channel here. We have crossed over 500 subscribers. Completely shocked about that. So we're on to 1,000 now. We had our best week ever in week number 1. And this week in week 2 preview, we're going to be previewing from your vote, Nebraska heading to Colorado, joining the absolutely loaded slate that is week number 2. So make sure that you're following along with us on social media, on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel. And make sure you're visiting SpinnableSports.com because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of SpinnableSports.com. So check them out right there. A bunch of great articles out for it. We're getting ready for NFL season over there. So if you're an NFL and college fan, make sure you check out the website there. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, and leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. Guys, as you can see behind me, I'm on location, a little tropical paradise right now before the end of Labor Day. But I'll be back in my studio for our preview episode. I got to leave this beautiful area.
Take it on the road like game day. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hopefully you had a great week 1. We're looking forward to week 2. And with that, bye, y'all.